Welcome to PolyCast, an official podcast of Apolyton Civilization Site.
Daniel Quick,
Makahlua,
Imran Siddiqui,
Cartimandua,
with guest co-hosts
Crescentfresh,
Longbowmen.
What episode is this?
That's Imran's line.
Follow with who are you people and why am I here?
Long-time listener, first-time guest co-host.
Welcome, listener.
Episode 64 with your host DanQ,
That's me.
Cartimandua,
howdy,
Imran,
Hey!
Lars Domus,
Hello.
and Makahlua.
Surprisingly awake.
Oh, this is Crescentfresh.
I can talk about the hammers. I actually got introduced to Sid Meier's games through colonization, and they were always hammers there. So when I started playing Civilization, I had to struggle to start calling them shields. When Civilization 4 came around, it felt natural that they were hammers again.
Oh, I actually never thought of that angle before, not having played colonization much.
Hammers makes more sense than shields, though, when you think about it.
Yes, when I think of production, I'm going to be thinking of, hammers, hammering something, as opposed to shielding something.
We made a bunch of shields, and we're going to use these shields to make...
Build the pyramids.
The pyramids are built of little shields, so go, yeah. Yeah, I think that's why it was easy for me to switch, because I was like, oh, yeah, you use hammers to build stuff. So I think it was a bit easier than, some people who still say shields. I'm not naming names. You know who you are.
When I got Civ 4, in my mind, I was thinking shields for 2 weeks because all I played was single player. But then once I got to multiplayer, they quickly straightened me out.
In this poll that accompanies this thread, started by Fungus420.
lovely username.
When Civ 4 came out, I upgraded my vocab as leading with 27 votes, or 57%, followed by, what, they're hammers? What are you talking about? And then I guess it was after one of the expansions came out with 6 votes, and then at 4 votes, never, they're shields, dang nabbit. CC Runner, in that thread, he was the one person that said, well, I started with Civ 4, they've always been hammers to me, which is comparable to what you were saying, Lars, starting with colonization, and then Civ changing it, and then in effect, Civ kind of changing it back, and I think I fall under the majority category. When Civ 4 came out, I upgraded my vocab. It's just, they're called hammers now? Okay, fine. Never gave it a second thought, until now.
It's still a production unit. I don't know why everybody's all, shields. Oh, no hammers. Oh, shields, hammers, shields. Come on.
When I started playing, I didn't understand the idea of hammers. I started playing with Civ 4, and I was like, what the heck does hammers mean? You have to have tools? I don't get it. And my husband had to really, explain that to me. It's not literal. I was kind of upset. I'm like, why can't they just call it production or whatever? But whatever.
They're not quality hammers. They keep wearing out, so they need a lot of them.
Did we kill it?
Almost. Sledgehammer.
Oh, now he killed it.
There we go.
I had a dream last night that I slept through PolyCast.
It was a good dream.
And I woke up and was like, dang it! In Foreign Talk, we talked about some forgotten but important technologies, if we think longbows come too early, and if vassal states should be able to exist after emancipation.
In the Senate today, we talked about to really gimp an AI, give them stone.
In the research lab, we talked about Uniques, the new frontier, and how much fun it would be to have unlockable achievements in Civ 4, or 5.
In the theater, we talk about recent Civ 4 gameplay experiences.
This is Forum Talk, where we investigate hot Civ issues in the forums.
The topic is from Lord Klein, and it's called Some Forgotten But Important Technologies. A few ideas. The stirrup made cavalry more effective and horse archers possible. The keel made ocean-going ships possible. I note that the Maoris, Micronesians, and Vikings all had ocean-going ships well before Civ 4's technology trees would allow them. General staff, introduced around the time of Napoleon, made it possible to effectively coordinate multiple armies. In game terms, you might increase all ground movement by +1. And the telegraph or telephone made it possible to coordinate business and government across geographic distances more effectively. In game terms, it would reduce penalties for distant cities.
Yeah, why can't we research the stirrup? Really, come on. It's just so funny to me.
They had it in, I want to say in Civ 2, actually. It was how you got nice, I think. I think it was also a requirement later for cavalry. It is some dead-end tech path. I wouldn't mind having ocean-going ships earlier, though.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Of these original suggestions, the only one that's intriguing enough to me to be a separate technology on top of what we already have now would be the telegraph or the telephone. But I think a lot of these other ones, in Civilization Revolution, you've got the greatest hits of technologies, as Sid referred to them. But they were the greatest hits of technologies based on the Civilization franchise to date. And I think they in themselves, the technology tree in Civ, should essentially be almost like the greatest hits of all of technologies and discoveries and inventions. Because otherwise, this game is already long enough. I think for all intensive purposes, stirrups is covered, well embodied by horseback riding. The keel, I think, is sailing towards what Lutz J has been saying here. General staff, either military science or military tradition. He does kind of say, well, for the telegraph and telephone, it falls under the electricity technology. And I think, it's along the same lines, but it doesn't quite go far enough. And there were some other suggestions of other technologies to include. Got a little crazy. Cooking was one suggestion.
Cooking? Come on. The first time a caveman put the meat on his spit over a fire, cooking was invented. Come on, guys. We're not playing prehistory Civ.
Concrete?
Well, but...
I don't know. Sometimes there's just not that much time in the modern era.
You can make nice statues and put in your garden.
Oh, yeah.
Get big dump truck. Pour concrete on top of enemy units. Aww.
Well, that's effective. If we could use it in war, I might... Just kidding.
Fermentation.
Ooh. Beer.
Oh, that's well represented by wineries. That's enough.
Oh, no. Come on. That's not enough.
No.
No, beer may have been the first agricultural crop.
Pasteurization was a suggestion. But you could probably say that falls under, I don't know, refrigeration or something. No, to something separate. Standardized time. To what end?
What? What? No. Come on.
That's funny.
Daylight savings time?
Ugh. Don't remind me of ugh.
Oh, I know. You have discovered standardized time. Lose a turn.
That's awesome.
This thread is like 2 years long.
Yeah, it got revived. It did start in 2007.
It's cool. I mean, if these people want to figure out a whole new tech tree with all kinds of new stuff in it and
Yeah,
make
right
that,
on that,
then I'll play it. It's fine. You guys argue it and make the mod. I'll play it.
Other than the telephone, the suggestion of photography, possibly, of all those suggestions, I think they couldn't have been serious, but crossword puzzles. Okay, it's a bit off topic.
That's not a technological advance.
I think my favorite one, though, was contraception.
Sudoku.
Your population drops?
Your population growth slows.
Nice.
Productivity increases, but...
One person, Zongo, started to suggest not only what the technology would be, but they started to suggest what voiceover would be once you research the technology. But the award for having far too much time on your hands goes to Ramses in this thread. Now, what he had done actually earlier in the thread was he had categorized all the existing Civ 4 technologies under the heading of theory, discovery, and in technology. See, like, mathematics is a theory, bronze working is a discovery, the wheel is an invention, electricity is a full-fledged technology. But he said, actually, there's another thing I noticed about Civ 4 technologies. When a tech is discovered, one of 4 sounds is played before the quote is read. I'm wondering if techs with the same sound belong to the same group. So I categorized the technologies based on intro sounds so we could see if there's actually a pattern involved. But I'll be honest, it does seem totally arbitrary. Ding with a low-pitched bell, ding with an ah sound, ding with page turning, and ding with drum roll.
Okay, speaking of too much time on your hands.
I like this guy.
I've never even noticed that there were different sounds.
Yeah.
He could use this for a pickup line. Hey, do you want to know what technologies go with the ding with the ah sound?
Oh dear.
Hey, where are you going?
Don't you think longbows come too early?
This thread was started by PyR8. He says, this is something that really frustrates me and it really hit me when I was playing the Mongols. When I read about classical history, I read about vast conquests like Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan. But when I try to do this in Civ 4 on standard speed, I find that I can only conquer my nearest neighbor before everyone else has researched feudalism and upgraded all their archers to longbows. Of course, it doesn't help that the AI seems to trade this technology around like crack in a ghetto. So I'm thinking of modding my game to make longbows appear later. Any suggestions? Engineering, maybe. After all, longbows and castles go well together in my eyes. Or perhaps guilds so that they appear together with knights? Question mark.
I don't have an opinion, but like threads like this are kind of interesting reading, but I want to feel like I'm good at the game before I think about tinkering with it, so I'm not really a modder kind of guy.
Oh, you don't have to be really good at the game to form an opinion. I mean, we do it all the time.
You don't even have to play the game to form an opinion, Imran.
Yeah?
I will go on the record, I think, as going with the majority of people here, which, no, I don't think longbows appear too early. To quote some people along those lines in this thread, for instance, Joshua368 notes, you'll scroll over the AI really badly as archers are their primary defender. Just learn how to attack sooner or faster, and if you want to severely handicap the AI, turn off tech trading. Naruto Avatar DBZ says, same reaction to Rifleman in Civ 3. You just have to deal. Only longbow aren't early. If attackers came before defenders, the game would be off balance. And from Rager 101, point 1, attack earlier. 2, build enough catapults. Bombard to 0 defense bonus, suicide catapults.
Right. There were people in there, I mean, I've done it before where you have no metal and you beeline feud and longbows become your offensive units. They were talking about getting drill 3 longbows. That's workable.
Yeah, if you find yourself in a situation where you just said where you have no mental, that could be helpful. Also, if you don't have any ivory, for instance. But if you do have that, I would argue that your better source for longbows is to be on the defensive. The underlying point, I think, quote from Naruto again, is if attackers came before defenders, the game would be off balance. So for that very reason where you're saying, oh, shoot, you don't have metal, beeline for feudalism so you can upgrade to Longbowmen. If you didn't have that, more people might be like, oh, restart. Kind of like, I'm in Civ 3 and I have no saltpeter. Oh, well, restart. Trying to avoid that kind of, oh, I've invested all of this time in this game and now I'm screwed. And I wasn't going to cheat and look at the world builder to see if I was going to have those particular resources.
I should preface everything I say by saying I'm thinking of multiplayer where you don't quit and you just deal.
Champ 82 makes the point that the longbow is a hell of a unit, no question. In terms of raw power, versatility, cheapness, and shelf life, it is really amazing. But I don't think they come too early, though. They do make a period where defense is stronger than offense, and that's fine with me. If it cools down warmongers for a little bit, so be it. As I think in the past we've talked about, are you a warmonger, are you a builder, and those are very black and white labels, and there needs to be time where you're balancing being a builder and being a warmonger, and here's an opportunity to cool down the warmongers just a little bit after their period of axemen and swordsmen, gosh knows what else.
Yeah.
I find I often get very aggressive around the time longbows come around, and a lot of catapults and trebuchets die. It's horrible.
But not as horrible as if you didn't have those catapults and trebuchets.
Well, I don't think they come too early either. The guy who wrote the thread says what inspired it was he read about great conquests in classical history. And if you just hurry up a bit, you can conquer quite a bit of the map before longbows come around. In a standard 7-player map, if you take out your nearest neighbor, that's a pretty big part of the world. Comparable to Alexander's empire, for example.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to just get on your horse, so to speak, and go out there quickly. If you want to kind of go around and build up your empire a little bit, of course you're going to think, oh, I can't conquer anyone.
Yeah, sometimes you have to stretch your empire, at least your resources in your empire, towards building the army and go conquest, and that pays off because you have much more landed territory than anybody else after that. Sometimes you have to nut your head out of builder mode and go into war mode. You can still just do some early conquest and then turn into a builder because you'll have so much more land to work with. It's one of those things, it pays off even though it can make or break you for the whole game.
In conjunction with that, Longbowmen could be there at the proper time in order for the player to make a strategic decision. Or basically, Praxis put it where it is because the player has to decide, of course, after a few games knowing when it comes out, whether they want to take that chance and become aggressive early, or knowing if they wait a little bit, Longbowmen will come on the scene and it'll be harder to conquest. It makes a greater strategic decision to be made.
Later in the thread, Pyr8 follows up by saying, I feel like the balance between offense and defense is skewed far too much towards defense at this point in Civ 4 because longbows are such a powerful defender and there's nothing that really crushes them until cannons or rifling, unquote. Well,
didn't we just have somebody the other day saying that this game favored the aggressors too much?
It's really variable, though, depending on what game settings you pick. You can make a case that Beyond the Sword... I mean, does everyone here play Beyond the Sword?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Define play.
As installed.
Imran doesn't count.
As far as what the AI does, Earthling comments that as far as game balance, it's necessary for the AI to beeline them for defense, just as a lot of things are necessary bonuses and preferences for the AI, unquote. Later goes on to point out that as a human player, you generally have an advantage against the AI. You have greater thinking capacity.
That stuff in between my ears?
Most of us. He also made the comment about being on standard speed, and someone made the comment about, oh, play on epic speeds. And then it's like, oh, yeah. Pyr8 essentially said that, oh, yeah, that makes the game, it's like cheating.
Somebody's taking themselves too seriously.
That's not cheating. I think the slower speeds are more forgiving. You can make more mistakes on the slower speeds.
Yeah, it's a totally different pace of gameplay. I don't think that's cheating, though. Yeah, you have more time to make those conquests, maybe. Although it takes longer to produce the units, you have plenty of time to get them over there. But it's not an easy button. Because when you're faced with tech research, sometimes it can take 30 and 40 turns. That's not simpler.
Staples, if you would like to sponsor the show.
No, not that. The I win button, then. Get Blizzard to sponsor us.
Zerakan started a thread, should vassals exist after emancipation? Quote, I've always thought this was a flaw in the game. If my civilization adopts emancipation, I should automatically suffer unhappiness from having vassals in my cities, and revolution chances in my conquered cities should increase by a certain percentage, maybe 10 to 15, and of course troop movements can affect this level. What do you guys think? Is there a mod that addresses this? Unquote.
Alrin Carr says the way I see it, emancipation refers to the personal freedom of individuals rather than entire civilizations.
I'd agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, they're maybe not dependent on them because of force, but dependent on them because of economic reasons or things like that. They're still vassals in a sense. They're just called some other fancy name.
Now, Aftershafter says that vassal states are a questionable investment enough as it is. If you make it so that you will lose any vassal states you work at, I doubt anyone will treat them all that seriously in the future. Yes, this thing about should automatically suffer unhappiness from having vassals. Even the way you phrased it there, Zerakan, if you could say, if my civilization adopts emancipation, maybe your argument could be, well, vassal states shouldn't exist at all. Because that's how you phrased it in the thread. Should vassal states exist after emancipation? And so you've kind of answered, yes, they should, but you automatically suffer unhappiness from having vassals. Well, anything automatic like that in either situation, no, I don't think so. Later on in the thread, there was a distinction made between vassalization through capitulation and voluntary vassalization. Someone had said, if you want to be getting rid of the vassals, then just help them get back some of their cities, and then they can get up in terms of their land and their population if they can break free. But of course that refers to capitulated vassals. This automatic thing, even if your vassals suddenly did get to 50% or above and met all of those conditions and could break away, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will automatically break away. If they realize that they're probably still going to be screwed if they break away from you, and your power is relatively strong and you have good relations with them, they're probably going to stay on. Any of this automatic stuff, no. I think the Dominion team has it, though, when he says you should be able to break vassal agreements, but with massive global diplomatic consequences. Whether or not you can adopt emancipation, and whether or not you do.
My impression was that people were unhappy about vassal states the way they are now. If you want to add even more stuff that can go wrong with them, I can't see how that's making the game any more fun.
I'd agree. I don't know why you'd want to cripple yourself.
I like the vassal states, personally, but my impression is that a lot of people don't.
Oh, and I know, if you don't want vassal states to exist, period, just disable them in the game setup. There we go.
Way to be clever.
I just remember the few times I've had vassals in single player, I seem to remember ending up regretting it. Kind of think, geez, why didn't I wipe these people out?
And it can be, yeah, you vassalize them, and then some turns later, 20, 30 turns later, okay, war weariness is gone, I've rebuilt up my defenses, my offensive units have healed, some combination thereof. I'm going to go finish off my vassal. Oh, wait, no, I can't. So like the Dominion team said, break that vassal agreement. Sure, you've got the massive diplomatic consequences, so you need to balance that, but then you can go in and finish them off. Back in episode 46 from last season, one of our topics for Forum Talk was adding a limit on the era of vassals, which was replacing them when defensive pacts became available. Semi-related, so I mention this in case people listening to this are intrigued by the discussion of vassals and are wondering when are we going to talk about it again. Well, how long is it going to take you to download the episode? The random comment of the thread award, which I've never given out before, may never give out again, comes from Woodrow, where he says, other contemporary situations could be considered, but I have to go feed my dog.
Okay, then.
Welcome to the Senate, where we discuss game strategy.
Bo Stock on CFC makes a statement saying that if you really want to gimp an AI, give them stone. And he relates, I'm starting to think that early access to Wonder resources really gimps an AI vulnerable to rushing or boxing in. First, the recent online game where Zhao behaved badly after starting by stone, and now the game attached by this post. Rags is no Wonder Horde, but in this game he built both pyramids and HG instead of more archers / chariots / HAs. The only thing he did right was frustratingly rapid expansion of his own, but ultimately he Wonder Horde his way to his doom. I thought that was an interesting thought that I'd never really noticed before.
Blythe says it's a known tactic called stone throwing. Capital S, capital T.
Stone throwing.
Yeah, it wasn't known to me.
It wasn't known to any of us, apparently.
Phil725 says, I'll have to give that a try. I'm with you, Phil.
Well, that does make sense, because just from my observations in playing single player, the AI does tend to prioritize the wonders over their army, which is, depending on how closely packed you are on the map, that could be smart if they're way off on some little end and there's nobody near them. But if they've got 3 or 4 aggressive civs around them and they're building wonders, that's just like asking if they get attacked.
Yeah, and for those people listening that might not be certain what exactly is the connection, what's the benefit of having stone when it comes to wonder? Well, for a number of wonders, it gives you double the production speed if you have stone and you have it quarried and it's, of course, hooked up to your trade network and your city or particular city has access to that trade network. And so watch the number of turns you need to build that wonder have instantly. A little later on in the thread, PP Civ 4 said, I don't need stone, but marble is so own-some.
Own-some. Well, true.
You've just been owned by marble.
And it's interesting, so then I thought, okay, do you want to compare really GIMP and AI, give them stone or marble? I do think either would work, but based on not only the number of wonders, but the timing of the wonders, actually, you're better off with stone if you happen to have stone. Because some of early wonders, Stonehenge, Great Wall, the pyramids, whereas if you compare that to marble, early games, there really is only the oracle. Keep your closest neighbor stone, and then build access as he builds wonders, and then you take them. That's very handy. It'd be interesting to see if there is any difference in terms of, say, do you gift it to an AI on a particular difficulty level or a particular civilization based on their traits and their personalities, whether it's standard or whether you randomize them. I mean, there is some variations in there, nuances that you can try, but,
Yeah, reading this one made me bust out the Civ 4 BTS reference sheet. Mao builds wonders very rarely. Builds wonders, extremely, is for Louis the 14th. Lincoln builds them often.
You can check the XML. It's in there somewhere.
Right, that's where it all comes from.
I will say this, though. I can see where getting the AI stoned would be very good for your Civ.
That would gimp a lot of people.
Not that kind of stoned.
but getting the Civ marbled, yeah, it doesn't have the same effect.
No.
You could take away their marbles. Maybe.
Better marbles.
Oh, you could do that.
Come on into the research lab where we explore concepts that are not in Civ yet, but maybe in the future.
Uniques, the new frontier. Naruto Avatar DBZ says with the advent of the unique building, he thinks more windows are open for unique types of other things, like wonders, improvements, and abilities. Gives an example of Byzantium, the unique wonder bonus for the Hagia Sophia, which I guess he wants it to have even less worker time spent building improvements. But he also adds no missionary limit and plus 50 missionary production. He's got another one of Japan, where it's a unique improvement of a shogun castle, which replaces the fort. And has no city reigner bonus on that if you attack that fort.
I can see unique improvements, but unique wonder seems too... Steering civs into building certain kind of wonders just seems a bit too far.
Wonders themselves are unique, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Improvements I can see, and abilities perhaps, but I would only want to see unique abilities in scenarios.
Yeah, because you could get into a situation if some ability turns out to be really good, everybody's going to play that Civ, kind of like how for a while there in multiplayer everybody played the Inca.
Yeah, and you don't want to, have a unique ability that makes it so everyone else would have a disadvantage, a huge disadvantage, against one that has some unique ability, which is amazing. And then, of course, the house rules or whatever on a multiplayer game would be, no one can pick that Civ.
Exactly.
Improvements, like a unique improvement, you think about how many civs we've got in the game, and then you're going to have to decide what advantage it's going to give you over a standard improvement. It just seems to be mind-numbing to me. But when I saw this thread, I thought about what has actually been done in Civilization Revolution, where there, all civilizations have their own unique bonuses for each era of the game. They've got a unique bonus starting, and then when you hit the ancient, medieval, industrial, and modern eras, respectively, they get another unique bonus that's on top of what they already had.
How does that work in terms of gameplay?
I think it's perfect for Civ Rev. I don't think it could transfer well to Civ 4.
Or Civ 5.
Right. In the way that the game functions, where you don't have other unique things like you do in Civ 4, I think it just fits well for Civ Rev, and I like it, but I wouldn't want to transfer it.
What I also liked about the approach to CivRev with these unique bonuses is kind of towards what I was saying with regards to the suggestion by the person who started this thread. Was when I was talking about the unique improvements coming up with 32 different kinds. I remember from my CivRev preview and playing the game that there were the unique bonuses. But I didn't realize that some civilizations share the same bonus, but they come in at different times. For instance, America gets 2% interest on gold and treasury as of the ancient age, whereas the Arabians and the Germans will have to wait until the modern era to get that. And while Arabians get plus 50% caravan gold as of the ancient age, Egypt must wait until the modern era for that. Now, I realize that doesn't specifically apply as it is in Civ 4 right now since we don't have the caravan unit. But you could use that so that you don't have to come up with something that is unique at every point in the game, at every era, for each civilization. And in fact, you could just have it so that you don't have a unique bonus that's added to a civilization as you go along down the game. You could just have, here are the 32 civilizations, here are their starting bonuses. And I think the only disadvantage to that is if obviously you wanted to make them unique, you'd have to come up with 32 different things. You couldn't stagger them. I don't think we should be trying to do that with Civ 4. But if you were thinking about that from the outset as you were designing a Civilization 5, I think it would be worth some gameplay testing and balancing and see how that would work out.
I haven't played CivRev, but I think it sounds like a good idea for that game where you only have a handful of civilizations. But in Civ 4 there are so many now, it would be a lot of work to sit down and look at each of them and try to think of bonuses, unique features that would work for each and every one of them and give them a unique personality. I think it would just be chaotic. For Civ 5, I think people would expect lots of different civilizations in that game as well.
Yeah, there's some argument in there that as far as the uniques go, where they already went too extreme with the unique units and the unique buildings, trying to come up with something original for everyone. And yeah, there was a lot of gameplay balancing required in there, and there are concerns about whether or not it really is gameplay balanced. I think if it was something you were attempting to do from the outset, it could be worthwhile. It could be possible to still have the same number of civilizations that, say, you have with Beyond the Sword, or a comparable number, have these unique bonuses. Just have one that's at the start, and they wouldn't have to be the overpowering extremes that you see in Civilization Revolution, for instance. They could be unique, they could still have meaning, not just simply flavor.
That makes sense to me.
Our good old friend Metal Turtle came up with the idea about unlockable achievements. Basically, he asks if we've ever noticed in other games have unlockable achievements for doing more or less pointless random things. And imagine what they could be in Civ. Such as normal ones, if all your cities have the name Sid in it, you would be unlock achievement called Cult Member. Or if your first worker's name is Sid, then you'd be unlock achievement called Acolyte. If you create 100 scout units, you would be known as Master Scout. If you win a game without making any worker units, you get the Noob Award. Things like that.
I love the Noob Award.
Asked us to add our own, and he'll compile them up there, so...
Yeah, I've got no problems with the achievement idea so long as it's not ridiculous. Like the Master Scout creating 100 scout units...
Yeah, but the point is for it to be ridiculous. I mean, it's supposed to add some levity to it.
Yeah, I think this is a joke thread.
And as long as it doesn't do like some games where it's required to unlock other bits of content.
Exactly. It's just fun little things. Like, they even had in the thread, if you have a unit that successfully withdraws from combat 10 times, you get the Brave Sir Robin Award.
That's awesome.
That's really funny.
You know, just little things like that. Like, just that pop-up that make you laugh a little bit, or that are just kind of amusing.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that, as long as they're coming in what would probably be the normal course of events. And the games, like what you described, like a Unit 10 combats, getting that little message, okay, that makes sense. But I like to create 100 scout units, sort of cheating through World Builder, for instance. You are going to have to deviate considerably on your normal game path to actually be creating those units.
Here's what you do. You go back down to settler level where you know you're not going to have a problem with everything else. Then you build 100 scout units.
What? You never tried the 100 scout unit strategy? It's,
Yeah, Dan, come on now.
Like some of these, like the 50 hours of straight gameplay, one more turn. Like, that's okay.
You know, this could be the next, like, one city challenge. 100 scout challenge.
Nah, not quite.
You've got 100 scouts running around your map. Oh my heck.
Again, I'm going to tie this into Civilization Revolution. For the Xbox 360, there are achievements that monitor your progress. For instance, you get some really simple ones, like you get 15 points for winning as X civilization. So each time you win a game on a particular civilization, you get 15 points, and then if you actually win on all civilizations, then you get another achievement. I think that's like 100 points or something. You get a 20 points for each type of victory. Like the first time you win an economic victory, it's a penny saved is a penny earned. My favorite one, I think, is 30 points for winning on a particular difficulty level. For instance, if you win a technology victory, which is a space victory, if you win a technology victory on at least King difficulty, you get the 640k ought to be enough achievement.
640k ought to be enough.
But there are also a lot of other miscellaneous ones, really minor ones, like the 3-point buy the ticket, take the ride for making contact with another civilization, to the 45-point here's looking at you, kid, for unlocking all famous persons.
It took me a minute.
Obviously, some of these don't adapt perfectly or at all necessarily to Civ, but you could put them in there just for some kind of added flavor. Here's the flavor. I just don't see any point in making it for something that's like creating 100 scout units that's just totally off the beaten path.
It's just for fun.
Control one of every food resource. I has a flavor.
It has a flavor.
I love the Ladies Award. Control every diamond, gold, and silver resource on the map. That's kind of funny.
Sexist.
Come on. You could just change it to I love the bling or something.
The Shiny Award.
Ooh.
There you go. Dan will love that one.
Be seated in the theater where co-hosts share their gameplay experiences. CFC started a Civ 4 screenshot of the day in recent weeks, comparable to what they used to do with Civ 3. And the third screenshot of the day said, don't play Boreal maps. And this thread was started by Ape and Pap. He says that the reason Boreal maps are a nightmare, the settings of the game were, I think, huge Boreal map type, cylindrical world wrap, and standard resources. The entire world was a wasteland of forested tundra with the occasional plains intersected by huge areas of only ice. There were hardly any resources apart from huge amounts of deer. During the Renaissance I started conking, I remember having 120 deer late in the game. And as Baccaronia said, this actually made me want to try a Boreal map. And I hadn't actually played a Boreal map until I read this and was told, don't play Boreal maps. I'm so going to play a Boreal map. You can't tell me not to play a map.
Top 10 ways to get somebody to play something. Don't do it.
Exactly. So I went ahead and did that. And I didn't have 120 deer, but something is guaranteed. You're not going to be able to trade for deer in the game. That's true. What is really nice about Boreal maps? Chopping. Oh, lots of forests to chop. That's what I found. That's what I really like. So I still whipped on occasion with the Slavery Civic, but nowhere near as much. It was not necessary.
Either the Tri-League or the Game of the Month had a Boreal map once, and I foolishly tried to save some tundra forests for lumber mills, but by then I had lost the game.
Oh.
You could chop all that forested tundra and just go for it all right at the beginning, which is probably what I should have done, because I was saving tundra forest, because I was thinking, what's the best improvement you could ever do on that? It's probably a lumber mill, but then that takes so long to get to.
The game had an advanced start, and you could do that from the beginning. With the map fresh, lumber mills, those would be great. And so far in that game, I'm not the strongest military power, but what I was able to do thanks to the forests, I expanded more quickly than I usually did. I also had the benefit of having, wouldn't you know it, stone, tie into an earlier topic in the BFC of my capital. And I was able to build quite a few runders, which helped culturally, and I specifically went for, the Shotogan Paya that enables all religion civics. I was able to build that, and I went and I adopted free religion. When I didn't get the first few religions, it made it very easy to build up what I needed to, get some forges in there, get the city to be higher in terms of population earlier on in the game than normally would have been able to, because there hadn't been whipping consequences. And because of that, I was able to position myself very well diplomatically. If you haven't been defeated in the game, I'm not going to win on score. I know that. I'm not going to be able to conquer anybody, but there's still the original 7 civs on the map. I'm 4th in terms of power, but I'm holding my own. I was able to build the United Nations. I control the United Nations. I wasn't able to go for the diplomatic victory. Gosh darn it, that didn't quite succeed like I thought it would. It's not the best game I've played, but it certainly wasn't the worst. But the Boreal map, play the map. Whatever your traits happen to be, unique buildings, your usual strategy, that's all fine and good. But play the map. And that's exactly what I did. I think perhaps the thread title should be, don't play Boreal maps like you would play on Pangea, or something like that. It's not going to be the same, but I don't think the map type is so terrible to say don't play on them. Just adjust your expectations. Calling today. In North America, the number is 301-637-7659.
That's 301-637-POLY.
In Europe, 44-121-288-7659.
That's 44-121-288-POLY.
You can Skype us at the PolyCast.
Or email us at polycast@apolyton.net.
For more information on PolyCast,
Our sibling shows ModCast and RevCast.
Or about PolyCast in general.
Log on to the series' official website at polycast.apolyton.net.
The question if the AI ever gave you a free city, does that actually happen? Voluntary?
I guess so. I've never had that happen.
I didn't believe it till I saw the screenshot, and even then I thought, Photoshop, nice.
Yeah, did someone doctor that? And it was Tokugawa doing it too, which was really like, what?
Maybe it was on random personalities or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah, possibly.
There's probably someone slightly off screen holding a gun to his head.
You will give this city to this person.
Afterwards, it pans out and you see this gun.
And that thread Digit Cruncher said that, there needs to be like a massive culture push from one city to be able to do it. The city has a low cultural output. The neighboring cities have high cultural output. Your culture must be present. And I'm thinking, no, what happens in those situations is the city revolts to me, and then I usually raise it because it was located in a crappy location to begin with. And I culture squeezed it out because it couldn't grow. Actually, have them gift a city, I've never seen that. I knew it was possible.
Well, apparently, plenty of people on this thread seeming to say that they have been. Hornet Civ said he got one. Our friend Rough High, who would not lie, I hope, said he was given the city. And then Kalust said they've been given the city 3 or 4 times, which I think is a lie. But but I guess it's happened a decent amount of times. Some part of it is luck and into it, and the other part is perhaps just the situation ends up that way, where the city is small and it's really close to your civ and that sort of thing.
Now we have to ask our guest co-host a standard question. They knew this was coming. Crescentfresh, if you were invited to come back on the show, would you?
Yeah, I would. Next time, I would prepare better. But, last night, I set aside a block of time on Friday evening to read all this stuff in advance, but then I got the instant message that Ra's game was happening, and I went and I did that until I was just...
And they're like, oh, crap.
And then I was really tired, and I fell asleep reading the threads. So I'll even be more prepared if I do it again.
All right. Lars, would you come back if we asked?
Definitely.
Ooh.
It was kind of like just listening to the podcast and then being able to say something when I wanted to. This was PolyCast episode 64. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to show host Daniel Quick.
Whether you want to or not.
Cartimandua.
Bye.
Crescentfresh.
Can I shout out to my clan sticks? Yay sticks. Go sticks.
Okay.
The band? What?
You can all start singing Come Sail Away now.
Imran Siddiqui.
Bye.
Makahlua.
Off to get more caffeine now, thanks.
And I'm Lars Dumas. Goodbye.
To complete my collection a few years ago, I bought an unopened copy of CivNet on eBay.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Dad, we didn't need more proof.
That's cool.
Wow, yeah. I don't think we can be friends anymore.
Wait, you guys were friends? When did this happen?
Maybe you should do a little quick promo for the Tri-League here, since Crescent brought it up. Novice, intermediate, advanced Civ 4 player, got game, bring it on! Tri-League tournament at Apolyton.net/forums.
This is why we don't let Dan do more promos.
Wow.
Wow.
I think it's funny.
And it's rude to talk with my mouth full.
Yeah, Dan, didn't you know it's rude to talk
Imran, didn't you know it's rude for you to be here?
Yes, it is.
He's gonna leave now.
Bye, guys. My ticket
I
out.
wish it was that easy.
Yeah. Oh no. Record date:
March 7th, 2009.
Sound clips copyright Civilization 4 and the Warlords and Meow the Sword expansion packs. Copyright 2009. Apolyton Civilization Site at apolyton.net.